This is the Challenger, Monstrum's new long-range first focal plane scope that improves upon the Monstrum G3 with a larger objective, zero-stop, Christmas tree reticle, and lower price. How is that even possible? Or is it all just too good to be true? Let me start with a quick unboxing, and then let's just see the contents of the box. This is the Monstrum Challenger. It is a 5 to 25 power, 56mm objective rifle scope with a first focal plane reticle that is illuminated, and it is powered by a single 2032 coin battery that fits underneath the illumination knob here. There are 6 levels of illumination with an off in between, and sharing the same turret is also our parallax focus, which goes from 25 yards out to infinity. A little stiff, but turns smoothly. And I appreciate the fact that they did step down. They made 2 different diameters and also different knob textures for the 2 different types of controls here, so you don't accidentally turn one when you mean to turn the other as far as this turret goes. We have our elevation and windage, and the elevation is non-locking, but that does have a zero stop. You can hear it is quite audible and tactile positive with just a hair, just a bit of slop in between each of the clicks. Now this is interesting here. This has you can reset this turret once you have your reticle zeroed out. You can pop off the turret here, but this screw isn't the turret screw. Underneath that cap is the actual screw that keeps down this turret. So when you want to reset this turret, you have to unscrew this screw that allows you to pop this off and set it to 0 once you have your reticle zeroed out. But this also is how you access the set screw for the zero stop. To activate or deactivate the zero stop, what you need to do is unscrew the locking screw on the front here with an included Allen key, and then you can tighten or loosen the set screw for the zero stop. And I'm going to tighten it down. So that is nice and solid. It stops right on the 0. And again, to disengage, you unscrew the zero stop screw. And we're going to do that so that we can check out our full range of adjustments. And this is non-locking, but our windage does lock. You have to pull up to unlock it. And it is also quite loud. Maybe not as tactile positive as the elevation, and a little bit of slop. Press it down and it locks the turret in place. Though I should point out the marking for the numbers don't exactly line up with the reference dot there, so that's unfortunate. Just gonna have to figure out where your numbers are. Now let's check out our magnification. That turns very easily. Not super loose, but nice and smooth, with a fin to help you with leverage. And our diopter also turns smoothly. But of course, we're gonna have to see how it looks like through the glass. But first, let's take a look at the included scope rings, and we'll take it out and mount it next. The scope comes with its own rings in the box, and one of them comes with a spirit level built into it, which is pretty nice. Has 6 screws, while this one has 5 on each of the rings, and they're torque screws, not just hex screws. And they have 2 screws on the base, so that's a lot of holding power on these rings. And they're pretty smooth, pretty nicely milled, with lightning cuts on the bases, and the bases themselves have recoil lugs. They're about 1.5 inches high approximately, and overall they look like pretty nice rings that they included with the scope. Before we get started with the test, I'd just like to take a quick break here to talk about this episode's sponsor, Aura. For the cost of just a VPN, I'm getting a whole suite of security services, including $1 million in identity theft insurance, and they're even removing me from those damn data broker listings. Use my link, aura.com/moondog, and you can try them for 14 days, free. And if you use that link, you're helping to support this channel. You know, identity fraud is a real thing, and with AI, it's all too easy to spoof your identity. That's why you should try out Aura. Alright, let's get back to the tests. We're looking at the peak of Mount Davidson, approximately 1,400 yards away, through the Monstrum Challenger at its lowest power of 5 to get our best overall image through the glass. And you can compare the image inside of the scope to the world outside of the scope to see if any kind of color shifting or brightness changes are occurring. Now, there is some noticeable chromatic aberration around the outside of the image and some distortion, so it's not totally sharp from center all the way to the outer edge. Now I'm going to bring up our magnification halfway to 12 power, which is typically a scope's sweet spot. And the image is still looking nice and sharp, though there is still noticeable chromatic aberration. You can see that as a color fringing that's occurring in the tree line silhouetted against the sky. And there is more of that and some distortion around the outer edges still. Now I'm going to bring this all the way up to 25 power. And pretty decent sharpness overall. We can clearly make out a trail marker sign in there. That's the white object that's to the right and above the center crosshairs. That is a 3-foot-ish steel sign on top of a pole, which is a good proxy for an IPSC target at this distance. I've aimed the scope at a shaded tree nearby and have set it at its brightest setting, and we can see only the center cruciform of the crosshairs is illuminated for a very tactical aim point. Okay, we are looking through the Monstrum Challenger at its lowest power of 5 at our reference target's down range at 100 yards away. And what I can see readily, of course, is noticeable chromatic aberration on the target frames, the purple fringe along the edge of the white frames. This is a good opportunity to check our range of adjustment, starting with our elevation. And let's see how high it'll go. That is the very top, and we saw a little bit of darkening around the top. Our view there, it's probably the eye box. And as we get to the bottom, you can see the eye box peeking in there at the bottom as well. And that was the very bottom. And let's just bring this back to factory 0. And let's check out our windage. That is the very rightmost, and we saw the eye box there. And we're seeing the eye box and the very leftmost extent of our range of adjustments. And let's bring this back to factory 0. Alright. Now let's bring up our magnification all the way to 25. We are lined up with the bottom left cross in our grid target, and this is a good opportunity to do a box test and see how well these turrets track. If I dial in 16 clicks into our elevation, yep, that puts us right into our next corner cross. And if I do the equivalent number of clicks with our windage, that puts us right into the top right cross. And if I dial back our elevation back to 0, that puts us right into the bottom right cross. And if I dial back our windage back to 0, we are right back where we started. So these turrets do track. Well, this is a good opportunity to do Cyclops Joe's nipple twister test, and we're just going to turn the heck out of these turrets and see if it'll return back to factory 0. Here's something I just noticed while reviewing the footage. The reticle seems stuck. Alright, so let's start with our elevation, but it does appear to have recalibrated itself correctly. And then let's turn our windage back to factory 0. And we're right back where we started. So yeah, this passes the nipple twister test. Alright, let's take a look at overall image clarity, and we can see our target board clearly, but more importantly, I can make out detail behind our target board in the backstop. That is a shadowed backstop in shade, yet I can still see the detail of the bullet pockmarks on the steel in that backstop. So this just says that this scope has good light transmission. And in our color card on the top left, there's good color vibrancy overall and a good amount of detail in the grayscales at either side of that color ring. Now let's raise up this scope a bit, and what I can see in the target on the bottom left is clearer bullet holes on the reactive sticker target, but more importantly, I can faintly see 2 additional 22 caliber holes on paper below that sticker target. And in the resolution chart on the bottom right, I can make out both horizontal and vertical lines all the way down to element 1 and group -1 on the very right of that reference board. I'd like to thank Monstrum Tactical for sending out the Challenger for me to test. It is one of the best long-range scopes under $200, and there aren't very many decent scopes under $200, so yeah, the bar is set kinda low. But I still have to laud Monstrum Tactical for even attempting a scope with this feature set in that price tier. That said, it's still a budget scope. It has noticeable chromatic aberration. It's not tack sharp from center to the outer edge. The reticle probably lends itself better to long-range hunters and tactical shooters than bench rest shooters. The stadia lines are thick and prominent and address an issue that many people have with first focal plane reticles in that they're too thin and hard to see at low power. But for bench rest shooters, they probably prefer a thinner reticle with a floating aim point. But you know, everybody's preference in reticles is different. Let me know in the comments what kind of reticle you prefer. And if you're interested in picking up a Challenger, they're a really good value. I've included product links as well as more information in my full written review at moondogindustries.com, and you'll find a link to that article in this video's description. If you use those links, you help support this channel. And you can help support this channel by simply hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and notification bell buttons. It's absolutely free. They don't charge you to be a subscriber to my channel. So I appreciate you taking the time to press those buttons and taking the time to watch this video. God bless. Moondog out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.